Hey everybody, welcome back to the Shut the Front Door podcast, the real talk about real estate podcast. Finally back in the studio.
We are back and literally better than ever.
The revamped studio, thanks to all the efforts of you and Mason over here. So anyways, welcome back everybody.
Yeah, speaking of Mason over here, we now officially have a producer, so we're hoping that the quality goes up a little bit and maybe even we'll get a little smarter.
Quality, consistency, everything that comes with what we should have been doing for the last 6 months. But anyways, we are back, and you brought another brainchild as far as topic for today. So what's happened in your recent life here?
Sure. So I had a long meeting yesterday with a client, getting a new listing going. Was listed previously with another agent, and they had a lot of questions, to say the least. I mean, a lot of questions. And bless their heart, they love their house. They have a passion for their house. It really comes through, and I appreciate that. Throughout the entire meeting, I had to explain, we're going to keep this simple, right? That's one of my approaches to business. I know it is yours too. It really is a pretty simple business.
Life. Just life.
No, wait a second. You're going to sit here and
might
tell
come
me.
as a surprise. Yeah, I know.
It's a bit of a surprise. The guy that hacks Roombas and builds custom-made video games using AI. Tell me how simple you like to keep it, Johnny, generally speaking.
My level of simple is going to be different than yours and everyone else. I'm just saying, when it comes to just life in general.
I'm going to say on a human level, we're going to keep it simple.
There you go.
And really, the thrust of the meeting was, I believe real estate is the ultimate free market exercise. It is supply and demand at its most basic form, right? You've got buyers out there who want to buy. You've got sellers who want to sell. And when we talk, virtually everything we talk about with getting the house ready to sell and how we're going to price it and comparable sales and appraisal process, it ultimately comes down to what's a buyer willing to pay, right?
Any market, cars, houses, stocks, shoes, you name it. But real estate is certainly top tier.
I believe it's as simple as it gets. And so when we talk about things like staging, for example, and sellers will agonize over, should I have fresh flowers out? Should I have the lights on? Should these doors be open? Should I have the curtains open? And I don't want to say those things don't matter, but they kind of don't matter.
Well, I go back to, because this is going to be in my not so distant future, but things like the Boy Scouts and what do they call them? The soapbox derby, boxcar derby, you know what I'm talking about? If I told you that like 90% of your effectiveness as far as speed is concerned is to concentrate on the weight of the vehicle. Okay, we're going to focus all of our attention on this one thing rather than the 10% of things that make the smallest differences in the world. Same thing when it comes to the real estate market, right? We don't necessarily need, they do help influence, but they don't nearly help influence as much as what the market is doing. If, like you said, the points to, I guess, I don't want to say strong odors in the house, but as long as you're not combating offensive odors, but there's no need to consistently Febreze every single room, every single morning when you wake up. Just keep it as you currently live.
Maybe at your house there is.
Maybe my house, but for the average person, right?
It's true. But so the way I like to describe it is, and if you know the appraisal process, right, we look at square footage, we look at location, number of rooms, bedroom count, size of the lot. About 80% of the makeup of the appraisal are things that you really can't change. I absolutely hate the phrase, it is what it is.
I know you do.
But in this case, it is what it is. Right? You really can't move the needle. Generally, you're not going to add more square footage. You're not going to add a bedroom. You're not going to move the house. Right? So when you figure that 80 or 85% of the process is pretty well set, now we're kind of picking around the edges. So do I like it when I walk into a house and it smells nice or it's well decorated? Absolutely, I do. But I've noticed that 10 years ago when I was working with a buyer, we'd go out and we'd see 4 or 5 houses. And then a few days later, we'd go see 4 or 5 more houses. And we'd do that for a couple of weeks or maybe a month, and then eventually we'd find the one they like. That doesn't happen anymore.
No.
It just doesn't, right? No. Because we don't have the inventory to do that. So when you're out there looking at a lot of houses, or if you're in a larger market, like say Columbus, where maybe we are going to see 5 or 6 or 10 houses today, you may need yours to stand out. But the reality is that listing I just took care of yesterday, it's going to hit the market next week. When it does, the buyers who are waiting for it are going to go see it.
Regardless of the cosmetics or the...
That's right.
Yeah, it's the market is incredibly strong as far as when it comes down to you hit the nail on the head. It's just one of those things that, again, you can enhance a few things by maybe pushing the needle just a little bit, trying to bend it. Yeah, I saw that the screen froze there. But it makes not so much of a difference. Like I tell my sellers this, it's hard to, when you want to manage that expectation, to try and keep your house as show ready as possible. If you're like keeping it to the point where you're expecting family to come over on Thanksgiving every single day, you're going to drive yourself nuts. And I would rather preserve your peace of mind as a seller client rather than you running the vacuum every 10 minutes because someone came in. I'd rather preserve your peace of mind and just let the market, do it.
It leads right to the conversation about feedback, right? Every seller wants feedback. It's one of the most frustrating parts of this process for them.
Sure.
They want feedback, and we can almost never give them what they want.
Right. Well, we said it before. It's like dating. Right? if you're not getting feedback, the answer is the lack of feedback.
That's exactly right. But see, sellers don't want to hear that. And the way I describe it is, you and I have been doing this a long time. You have any idea how many houses you've shown?
Shown or sold?
Shown. You ever do the math on that?
Shown, probably. It's got to be multi-thousands at this point.
I guess that I'm somewhere well north of 10,000 showings.
And I got to be on your heels.
And you may be more than that because you've done more buyers over the years than I have.
So it's got to be. If not, I'm catching up to you.
I guarantee you're the same as I am in that a lot of times you can walk into a house with someone. I know within 30 seconds that they're not going to buy this house.
Right.
You don't usually know it's a yes, but I can usually know it's a no almost immediately.
Well, and I've always said I don't care about pre-approval letters or pre-qualification letters. Let me recant on that. I do care, but like on a much more limited basis than what people would imagine. Mainly because if someone starts asking me about like, okay, I want to take measurements and take pictures because I want to put carpet in here. Okay, that in and of itself is the demand I'm looking for because they're envisioning themselves in that space. Now,
Right.
Obviously, pre-qualification and pre-approval matters. We want to make sure that we're working with the people that are, that we can help. We don't just want to bring strangers.
No,
to
of course.
people. But I say that because, again, you're right. Within 30 seconds, I've said this 1,000 times. I have never, out of all the showings I've had, all the closings we've done, I have never in my career once sold a house. Not one time. The houses sell themselves.
It's true.
We are the intermediaries between that process. And sometimes the process is as simple as, here's a bag of money, give me your deed, and let's shake hands. Other times it's, hey, I need to sell a single wide trailer from the 1960s to use the money from this sale to go towards buying another one with a government-backed loan.
It does get a little complicated sometimes.
Then it gets like, there's 1,000 cogs running.
Yeah.
Again, I guess the lesson to take away from this is that don't stress yourself out over the smaller things. And that's what we're here for.
Yeah, you let the process play out.
Right.
And on the feedback thing, so what I've seen happen is you walk in, they're not going to buy the house, right? We'll walk around for 15 or 20 minutes. They'll give you all the reasons they're not going to buy the house. I know they're not going to buy the house. But I know my seller wants feedback.
Right.
So I'll say to them, so what do you think? Is there anything I can share with the seller that you don't like or you like? And again, they're already thinking about the next house they're going to look at. I've seen people, when they hear that question, look around and say, I really don't like the kitchen. It's a little too small for us. Now, that's not why they're not going to buy the house.
No kidding.
Right? So I go to the seller after the showing. What did they think? It's not for them. Oh, really? What was their feedback? What did they say? They thought the kitchen was too small. Now, the seller, in anticipation of that feedback, is hoping for something they can work on, right?
Right.
They're hoping, but they didn't like the paint in the dining room. We can fix that this weekend. They don't like the chandelier in the foyer. Oh, shoot, I'll put a chandelier. No one ever says that, right? What they say is, we're not going to buy this house, and we'll give you a reason if you want, but there's probably 15 reasons we're not going to buy this house. Not the right location, not the right school district, not enough bedrooms, whatever. But sellers want that feedback. We give them the best we can, and they get immensely frustrated because they're not, first of all, a lot of times you don't even get any feedback.
Yep.
When you do, it's nothing you can work with.
Right.
Because it's the ultimate free market.
Sure.
It's not the house for them. They're not the buyer for your house. We move on, right? We're going to find the buyer for your house. And when we do, feedback's not going to matter. They're going to buy your house.
Well, you alluded earlier to my nerd prowess and hacking Roombas and all these other things, and maybe taking.
I can't believe early in this podcast, Johnny Kazemka said, I like to keep it simple in life.
And I do. It's just my level of simple might exceed people's expectations.
A lot of people who watch this and listen to it
gotta laugh.
are going to have a chuckle about that. I'd like to walk around the office and play that little snippet to, some of the office staff who have asked you for help with, a tech problem and say, well, Johnny likes to keep it simple. He'll make it really simple.
That's going to be your new text tone.
Mason, can we get a drop of that? Can I get a drop of Johnny saying, I just like to keep it simple?
But what I'm getting at here with this is that I intentionally at least in my life, and I would even advise that I would leave little things out that might, a seller wants to run the vacuum every 10 minutes or whatever, like we're talking about, to try and like the smaller portion of this, the 10% things that make the minuscule difference, right? I would just say, forget it. Leave it alone. Leave it at 90%. Because if a buyer comes in and really says, oh, I would have made an offer, but I didn't like that you didn't run the vacuum. That's not the buyer we want to work with. Trust me. I leave that out there so I can weed them out. There's just as much importance of getting a no than as there is to getting a yes.
Yeah.
Because if you have multiple offers and that was a conversation that they were having about your property, what are they going to do in the inspection phase?
They're not going to buy that house.
What are they going to do in the appraisal phase? What are they going to do when one little thing comes out of place? So yeah, you cannot find perfect, right? It doesn't exist. No matter how hard you try, you're just going to drive yourself crazy, wanting feedback, trying to fix things that don't need fixed in the first place. Let the market be what it'll be, and trust our advisory roles as far as when you hire us as a listing agent or even a buyer's agent, right? It doesn't. We talk about feedback. And if it's a buyer's agent, I mean, we deal with this kind of stuff. We see it daily.
Absolutely.
It's so ingrained in our daily life and culture that, we are almost like non-reactive anymore when this stuff comes up. And I think that kind of frustrates people sometimes.
I think it does too. And it's something that, you and I, we have a very similar approach to the business, right? We're very sort of logical and robotic, and we're not always
simple.
Oh, you simple, all right. You simple, like my grandma would say. He's simple.
Straightforward, get it done.
Sometimes, and maybe the female members of our team would be a little softer and gentler and a little warmer and fuzzier and make people feel better about themselves.
Right.
Where you and I are like, all right, let's just get this done. And I'm being a little extreme there.
No, I've said that.
There's some
times.
truth in that for sure.
Beth and Denny could be the face of the operation. I'll be the hammer, the nails, pen and paper. I'll just go to work.
Their faces are definitely going to attract more business than ours.
No kidding.
But so to your point though, is I forget what your point was.
That people react. Like we're non-reactive.
We're non-reactive. That's right. And the way I try to spin that in and keep myself straight is I'll tell my clients, this is a big deal for you. It's a big deal for me too. I appreciate the business and it matters, but your life is getting turned upside down and mine's not. So when you're buying or selling, you're making a major life decision, a major life move. It's stressful. You're going to hit snags. You don't do this every day. So, I've got a closing right now that's been delayed by a couple of days. Seller's very nervous about it.
Sure.
Everything I can do to say, look, this happens. It's very common. It's no big deal. It's going to close. Well, are you telling me guaranteed it's going to close? Like 99% chance it's going to close. But in their world, so the way I describe it is, my job is to be that calm voice and say, it's going to be okay. We'll get you through this. You can freak out all you want. Right. I'm not going to, because if we both freak out, then we have a problem. No one's driving the ship. So you freak out, I'll walk you through it. But it really does, it comes down to that very simple, if you're the right buyer and this is the right house, the deal's going to come together and we're going to get through it.
Right.
If you're not the right buyer, all the feedback in the world doesn't matter, and all the take down the family pictures and bake bread in the morning isn't going to matter.
Right.
It's not the right house for you, right?
Well, how many times do we get those questions too? Will this pass FHA? Will this do that? And people ask us to deal in absolutes, and we don't. We deal in statistics.
Interesting. Mason just got a question today about that on a house. He had an agent reach out to him and say, will this pass USDA?
Right. And how many? And there's a good way to weed out some of the good and bad. And I guess it's a standard question.
That's another podcast.
But it is. But we don't deal in absolutes. We deal in percentages.
That's
and
exactly
there's a
right.
strong percentage that, hey, if you do these things and follow these steps, okay, we've seen this 1,000 times. We're going to go by the play-by-play, right?
That's right.
And technically speaking, we only have to be right 51% of the time to be successful. We want to be right 99% of the time.
Yeah.
We know 100% isn't exactly achievable, but and I would like to enlighten people that this is why we do these podcasts, because this is the knowledge that we get to dispense. We are in the upper 90s. We bat very, 100%. Very. If we were the Yankees, you would be Jeter, and I'd be. But anyways, we bat tremendously well. But when it comes down to this kind of stuff, I've always said too, almost like a doctor, I do not want to be the patient that's not in the waiting room, right? I don't want to be the person at the hospital that's not in the waiting room. You don't want to hear me from a daily basis, because if you are hearing from me all the time, I'm usually there's problems that we need to solve. My work, when I do my job well, when we do our jobs well, you won't even know that we've done anything at all. And that's kind of sad because it's stolen like glory that goes over here. That's like, because it's all at the back. It's almost like the football coach. You don't get to see what they're doing behind the scenes. You just get to see the ball move down the field.
It reminds me, here's a good analogy. Yeah, it's Steve McNair was a quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. And my brother's a big Titans fan. I'm a Steelers fan, so I hate the Tennessee Titans.
Sure.
And Steve McNair had this reputation as being the toughest quarterback in the NFL because he was always getting hurt and he was playing through it. And I said, well, if he's that tough, he wouldn't be getting hurt all the time.
Right.
Is he really? I think he's...
I don't know.
I don't think that's the guy I want to be. Man, he's hurt all the time, but he keeps playing.
Right.
Well, I want my guy to not get hurt at all. Like, what's the problem here?
Yeah, really.
Anyway, but that's kind of the idea, right? That if your agent is always solving problems for you, maybe they could do a better job up front of avoiding those problems in the first place. And there are definitely things we can do to help avoid those problems.
Yeah, we're not exactly prognosticators of like what we can see things before they happen. So when we get that question, will it pass FHA? We don't know, but here are the standard things that come up.
Here's what's likely to happen.
And we can try these things to avoid them and move on.
And by the way, the reason I know I don't know is because I was wrong enough. Like I've been wrong early.
My God, have I been like I've been humbled so many times. I'm just like, so I just keep my mouth shut half the time anymore because again, it just comes down to
you got to let it play out. You got to let the game come to you.
I just wonder, like, again, there's a standard HUD guideline, HUD book. Did you read my last email that I sent to that last
Oh, boy, did I. So, Mr. Keep It Simple. Tell me how simple that was.
Oh, I can't show that email.
Did you?
But hey,
did you get into Mesopotamian history on that one? I can't remember.
So for those that can't see the email that we can't show on screen, but there was a deal going sideways, and I had enough is enough, and finally just popped off. And it takes a lot to get under my skin, but we were getting delayed on closing over and over and over again, and finally had to stand up for the client and say, you know what, this isn't happening, and just laid the proverbial smackdown. And sure enough, within 90 minutes of that email, we got a closing within 24 hours.
Which highlights how even when we think we know what's going to happen, we're wrong, because when you sent that email to me to review, basically, I looked at it and I thought, this is really good, Johnny. Probably not the right approach.
but I got it done.
But you be Johnny, and the next day he says, I got it to close the next day. I'm like, well, I guess I was wrong. It was the right approach.
Right. So we have different systems, but at any rate.
Man, it's great to be back here doing this podcast.
It really is.
We've been saying forever. So just a word about Johnny. You've been trying to make this happen like this for somewhere around 10 years, I think.
Give or take.
You've built multiple studios and multiple offices. And we finally today, I believe this is the dawn of a new era. Brand new studio, dedicated to what we're doing. Absolutely pro-grade equipment. We got a genius producer who you're going to see on camera before long. So excited, Mason here. Give it up for MG. And so it's like this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we have more future content, not just us, but Lindsay's going to be starting her own.
We've got a lot of stuff on the horizon.
So this is going to be great.
So thanks to everyone listening. If you haven't subscribed on Spotify, hit the button. Don't we have to do something like we're on YouTube? We got to say something like, "Hey everyone, welcome." Hey guys.
We transitioned a little bit from the live. We might get back to that at the not so distant future. But yes, you can follow us on any one of our social medias, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube especially. Follow us on YouTube. That was the big one that we wanted to try and grow that series.
But to be a YouTuber officially, we have to start with, hey guys, what's up?
Yeah, like and subscribe for
smash that like button. We're not doing that.
I hear that so readily often in my life with Riker that I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. So.
Anyway, we do appreciate every one of you who's listening. We have an absolute ball doing this. We love talking about real estate. We love doing real estate. So we hope you come back.
Sounds good.
All right.
See you guys.